The Bungie 30th anniversary event is live, and with it we've got some brand new content, including the Dares of Eternity 6-man activity, and the Grasp of Avarice new dungeon. What's going on, Guardians? My name is the Blacklink, and let this video serve as your guide for completing the new pirate adventure contained within the Grasp of Avarice. Yahar, so gather around, ye closest mates. You're going piratin' for old One-Eye Wilhelm's treasure. This dungeon starts off in familiar stomping grounds for any Destiny veteran. You're basically exploring the loot cave back on Skywatch. Once you've loaded into the familiar territory, you'll see plenty of enemies around. Take them all out and then they'll start spawning from the loot cave itself. The big difference here, every enemy that you defeat is going to drop a really shiny, really dangerous engram that upon being picked up will give you the debuff Burdened by Riches, which will have a short countdown. If that timer hits 0, so too will your health. But you can reset it by picking up more of these engrams, which you will be doing for the first section of this raid. Take out as many enemies as you can, pick up those engrams, and then make your way into the cave itself. In the back, you'll find this crystal. Standing next to it will drain the debuff from you. This serves as the central mechanic for this entire dungeon. Once you've gathered up enough engrams, the crystal itself will grow to its maximum size and the way forward will open. A quick note as an Easter egg for the way the loot cave used to work here: if you notice that enemies stop spawning for an extended period of time in the dungeon, leave the cave. You're standing too close to it. After moving a significant distance away, enemies will resume their spawning mechanics, just like they did in D1. Anyways, once you've opened up the path forward, make your way down. There will be a series of puzzles that you'll need to solve, complete with death traps all around. But we'll show you the right path forward to get you to your destination. Follow the path forward until you reach this tall room with 3 doors. Next to each door will be a switch. 2 of them will instantly kill you if you pull them. So head through the door you're seeing right here. Inside there will be a pressure plate right in front of you. Don't step on this and keep an eye out for these throughout the rest of the dungeon. They usually trigger traps that will instantly kill you. Hop over it and then hit the switch in the back of the room. This will open up the main door in the big room, where you can make your way down the pipeline and jump onto a series of trapdoors in the middle of the room. Now, you might want to just go ahead and jump across the gap and hit the shiny switch on the other side. Don't do that, that's another trap. You want to jump into the middle of this room, let the trapdoor fall, and you'll find a secret alcove underneath it. Float on over to it if you're a warlock, or double jump if you're a hunter, and hit the switch inside. This will open up the next series of doors you need to go through. From here, jump over to the trap ledge, back across the middle of the gap, and then head back through the pipeline itself. When you get back into the main room, you're going to need to make your way up, so jump on some of the nearby structures and make your way up into the top until you get to this particular pipe. It'll be on the top level in the back of the room. So make your way up, traverse over, and follow it through. Here, there will be a pressure plate you actually need to stand on. It'll open up the grating above you. Go ahead and jump through it. From here, the path is actually fairly straightforward. Follow the direction that I'm taking to jump up and then make your way up to the top platform here. There will be a few death traps on the way, but so long as you keep moving and don't step on a pressure plate, you'll be fine. This path will eventually lead you into the reservoir, where you'll have a quick puzzle to solve. It's actually really simple. In this area, you'll see some doors open and some shut. We're basically going to be opening and shutting doors all throughout this puzzle. If you head into these areas, you'll see a control panel in the back, as well as a healthy amount of thrall. These control panels open and shut the doors attached to the rooms that you're in. So go ahead and hit it and then follow this path back out. You'll use it to jump across the way over to door number 2, which should now be open. Do the same thing. Make your way in there, you'll see the control panel in the back, hit the switch, and that will lead you down to control panel number 3. Once you go inside this one though, things are a little bit different. The initial control panel inside is going to open up a hatch above you. Jump up there and hit yet another switch. That's going to open up one of the major bay doors back where we started. So, after you've hit the switch up top, drop back down, open up the bay 3 door by hitting the switch you initially hit when you came in, and then make your way back up to door number 1. You'll see a new section is opened up with a bevy of hive waiting for you. Make your way over and hit the switch in the back to open up the final bay door directly across from you. Then from there, it's just a matter of jumping your way over to that door and moving on. In this next area, we've got another trap door. It's the door on the left. Ignore that one and head to the door on the right. This will lead you to the room with your next puzzle. Now, this giant circular room is basically just going to be another series of switches you'll need to hit to open up all of the bay doors around you. You'll notice 4 different areas numbered 1 to 4, and some enemies will spawn whenever you generally open up any of these doors. If you head over to platform 1, you'll notice the initial control panel. Hitting it will open up door number 3. Head over to the 3rd platform and you'll find those shutters are now open, and of course another control panel in the back. Hitting that will open up the shuttered doors on platform number 1. And you guessed it, if you head over to platform number 1, there'll be another control panel in the back that will open up the shuttered doors for platform number 2. Once you've finally done that, make your way over to platform number 2. You'll find a Scorch Cannon Vandal has spawned. You're going to need that to move forward, as this introduces the second major mechanic of this dungeon, using Scorch Cannons to power objects. Take out that Vandal, grab the Scorch Cannon, and make your way over to platform number 4. Here, you'll find a strange device next to the door. Fire a Scorch Cannon shot inside of it, charge it to full, and then detonate it. That will activate the device and open up the door. This will take you into a pretty massive stairwell, complete with an Indiana Jones style trap. As you're making your way up, you'll see a cylinder drop down and roll towards you. You can either jump over it or you can hide in one of the side alcoves that you should see if you look left or right. Anyways, once you've made it past that, make your way up to the top, follow the short path through, and you'll find yourself at the first boss of this dungeon, Phry'zhia the Insatiable. This is actually a pretty simple boss fight. You'll be taking on a giant shielded ogre, whose shield can only be broken by the nearby crystal you'll see at the start of the battlefield. Your job here is simple. Collect engrams to get the Burden of Riches debuff, deposit that debuff at the crystal. Once you've deposited enough, you'll be able to enter damage phase and actually fight the boss. But you'll need to mix in some of the Scorch Cannon mechanic we just went through. Periodically, a Scorch Cannon Vandal will spawn in the back of the arena. After you've cleared out the first wave of enemies, take out that Scorch Cannon Vandal. On both the left and the right side of the battlefield, you'll notice more of those machines that you can fire a Scorch Cannon shot inside of. Anytime you do that and then actually detonate it, it'll open up the shuttered doors on that side of the battlefield where a bunch of hive will spawn. Each of those hive is going to drop a corrupted engram for you to pick up. And after you've cleared all the ads and picked up all the engrams, you head to the crystal and deposit it. Wash, rinse, and repeat until you actually break the boss's shield and enter damage phase. This section's pretty simple and it shouldn't take you too long to defeat this boss. If you don't defeat him in the first damage phase, of course, he's going to go back to being invulnerable, and then you'll need to fire a Scorch Cannon shot on the opposite side of whatever side you actually opened up the shuttered doors on to do the same thing. It'll spawn more of the hive, you take them out, they'll drop more of the engrams, you gather those up, and you repeat the process until the boss is dead. Some quick tips if you're trying to beat this boss, I would recommend heading up the left side rather than the right side for your damage from the crystal, as the boss hits really hard, but he generally tries not to leave the middle of the battlefield. So if you go up here, you drop a well, you're usually pretty well protected from most of the enemies and the boss themselves. And he presents himself as a pretty big and easy enough to hit target that you shouldn't have too much trouble dealing massive damage to him. Anyways, once you're finished here, it's time to move on to my favorite section of this dungeon. As I call it, SRLFYL, Sparrow Racing League for your life. This next section is really fun. Once you've made your way to this darkened room, you'll be presented with 2 switches. The one on the left is the right one, it'll open the door and start the next encounter. The one on the right is a death trap, so don't touch that, or tell your friends to touch it as a great debate mate. But anyways, once you've hit the switch on the left, the doors are going to open and you're going to see a timer start. You're going to have 14 seconds to make your way to a mine and dismantle it. In a chase that's going to be eerily similar to an encounter in the Scourge of the Past raid. Along the way, there will be plenty of enemies who deal a suspiciously high amount of damage to your Sparrow. And also there will be some items that can increase the timer to give you a bit of extra wiggle room here. There's not too much to explain. This is a race against time. You'll need to make your way to this mine, dismantle it, which really takes about a second to actually complete, and then hop back on your Sparrow and move on to the next mine. Each time you complete a mine, you'll get another 14 seconds to head to the next one, but you will need to extend your time by hitting at least 1 or 2 of these buffs in different areas. If you'd like a quick, easy way to get around this, follow the path that I'm showing you here. In the first section, there's 2 time extensions that you can get by taking the right-hand side, and only really 1 group of enemies that you'll have to deal with, as opposed to the 2 groups of enemies and 1 time extension you get by taking the left-hand path. But follow the general path that I'm taking here, all the while trying not to have your Sparrow destroyed by the myriad of enemies you'll be facing, and you should hopefully be able to end this Sparrow race, disarming all of the bombs with enough time to spare by the time you get into the final room. There's not really much else to explain during this section, but it is a lot of fun. Definitely my favorite part of the Grasp of Avarice. Anyways, once you've completed the Sparrow Racing Death Race, you'll be able to follow a short path which is going to lead you into your next major encounter. It'll take place in this large room that has multiple platforms with different lifts on them. Here, your goal is to destroy a fallen shield generator that's preventing you from moving forward, and you'll do that by firing the cores of servitors into the generators themselves. This section's really easy, though it does take quite a bit of time to get done since you can only fight one servitor at a time. Look around the battlefield. You'll eventually see a shielded servitor pop up on one of the platforms. If you also look on the platform that you start in, you'll see a lift that you can activate by firing a Scorch Cannon shot into the nearby engine. This will be your main method of travel in this area. So, take out the Vandal, grab the Scorch Cannon, fire a shot into the engine, and then have you and your teammates stand on the platform beneath the lift, and you'll be launched to whichever platform the lift is pointing at. You can also change the direction that the lift is going to be pointing, which is going to be important in just a second. Make your way to the platform that has the shielded servitor. You'll also see a bunch of enemies spawn up around them, and when you take them out, they'll drop the Burden of Riches engrams that you'll need. Gather as many of those as you can, and then nearby, usually in a centralized building, there will be a crystal near the servitor itself. You deposit those engrams in that crystal, and when you've done enough, I think it takes about 20, the shield on the servitor will break and you will be able to defeat them. Once you do, they'll turn into a ticking time bomb that you'll need to drag over to that island's lift and then launch into the shield generator itself. If you look up in the middle area at the shield that we're trying to take down, you'll notice these nodules all along the side of it. That's essentially what you're going to be launching these servitor bombs at. And as annoying as that sounds like it could be, with Bungie physics and all that, it's actually remarkably easy. Most of the lifts around you are already locked on to the position they need to be in to actually have those servitors hit their intended target. So take out the enemies, deposit the buff, destroy the servitor, and then drop him on that lift and fire him towards the shield generator. That's essentially what you have to do here multiple times. After you've taken out one of the shield generator's nodules, another servitor will spawn on another one of the islands. So you have to look around, find it, and then repeat the process there. Once you've done this about 4 times, the shield above the middle island will open up and your path forward will be clear. Head to that middle island and use the lift to fire yourself directly up where you'll be able to enter the final boss's arena. That's right, it's time to take down Captain Avarice the Covetous. And this battle in particular isn't going to introduce really any new mechanics that you haven't dealt with. It's basically the exact same as the ogre fight previously, but just with a captain now instead of an ogre. Across this battlefield, you'll notice on the left a series of platforms that will have a bunch of dregs spawning on them, a small island in the front directly beneath where you're going to be coming into this room where another cadre of dregs are going to spawn, and a platform on the right that'll have the same thing. In the middle is where the boss can be found, and you'll see a bunch of crystals waiting. It's exactly what you think it is. You're going to need to gather up some engrams to take to the middle to deposit in the middle crystal to move the boss into DPS phase. The only difference this time is that you'll be spawning the engrams you need not by defeating the dregs, but by using a Scorch Cannon on one of 3 different spots scattered throughout the battlefield in order to spawn the engrams. There will be 3 of the engine devices that we're used to by now, all of which will be seated along the area where the boss himself can be found. The first one's in the front middle. If you look where the rally flag is and just look straight up, you'll see it right above you. And then there'll be one on the left side and one on the right side. I'll show them off in this video here. Essentially, you're going to be going through, taking out dregs to clear the sides of adds. Eventually, a Scorch Cannon Vandal is going to spawn. You take him down, you grab that Scorch Cannon, you figure out which one of these engines has its hatch open at that point in time, you fire a shot in, charge it up, detonate it, and that will spawn the Burden of Riches engrams all across the battlefield. There will be a ton of them that drop down. You and your teammates need to grab as many as you can, make your way into the middle of the battlefield, and deposit them at the crystal in the middle. Once you've deposited enough, the boss will teleport up into the back of the room where you can begin your DPS. And that's essentially what this boss battle is going to be like. It's a lot less complicated than, say, the boss of Prophecy. Though there are one or two things you probably should worry about. The boss is going to have a couple of buddies nearby, in the form of an Ultra Sniper Shank and an Ultra Reaver Vandal. Both of these enemies can be taken out, and I would highly recommend doing so, at least in the when it comes to the Sniper Shank. That thing will get you killed more often than not, but they both will respawn every time you complete a damage phase. But beyond that, this is actually a pretty easy boss fight to get done. Have your teammates split up, one person on left, one person on right, and one person in mid. Take out the dregs, grab the Scorch Cannon, spawn the engrams, grab them all, head to mid, deposit, wash, rinse, repeat until damage phase. Deal your damage, and then if you don't kill them in one damage phase, which is pretty easy to do with some of the buffs we've got right now with like 1K voices and fusion rifles, then you just start the process all over again. Do it until the boss is dead, and then congratulations, Guardian, you have completed the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, proving yourself privateer supreme and laying claim to One-Eye Wilhelm's treasure. Additionally, if you picked up the quest from Xur, this will start you out on the road to getting the Gjallarhorn exotic rocket launcher, as well as whatever goodies you glean from the final chest itself. But alright, Guardians, that's it for this guide video. Hopefully it helped you complete the Grasp of Avarice. There are a few other secrets tied to this particular dungeon, including the secret to getting the exotic catalyst for the Gjallarhorn, which we'll be covering in our Gjallarhorn guide video. So make sure you check that out here on the channel. If the guide helped, and hopefully it did, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we put out. The 30th anniversary is promising a lot of really interesting content. We've got so much more to cover. But that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians stay frosty. And remember, Guardians never say die.